Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the ICU HBCU podcast. We've got a good one for you here today. My former section leader with the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, but he's a lot more than that, and he's going to share a little bit about that here today. Zeke, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? First and foremost, thank you for bringing me to this safe space. It is an amazing opportunity to connect with another powerful mind. Hi, everybody. My name is Ezekiel. It's good to be here. It really is.
Awesome. So right, I spoke earlier. Of course, we know each other from marching band. We're both marching Wildcats in the Sudden Impact drum line. As I said, folks, Zeke was my section leader at the time, and he really he took me under his wing. Right, he was a great leader, both technically, right, as it related to playing the cymbals. We were in the cymbal section, but he was really wise too. I remember, going through some tough days as a quote unquote crab, and Zeke was really one of the more supportive ones as it related to, I'll speak to you directly, Zeke. You were one of the more supportive ones as it related to just continuing to allow the crabs to keep their spirits up. And I really appreciate you for that, man. So thank you.
No, definitely my pleasure. Being a crab at Bethune-Cookman is quite the experience. It is an experience one like none. And it is really meant to mold you, but along that path, it can be truly demoralizing, or you can get burnt out or weary because as an incoming freshman, you're learning how to not only adapt to the band life, but adapt to the college life at the same time. And that could be very challenging and scary for a lot of people. So we do need that type of support, especially in those type of environments, to help in those moments of need.
For sure. Yeah, balance is key. So, right, that overarching piece, as I was ultimately invited you on to the podcast, and even just me thinking about how the conversation would go, I was like, you know what? Zeke and I both went to the same institution, Bethune-Cookman University. We were both in the marching band. I know my experience, but I never really got to hear about, your experience, what ultimately brought you to Bethune, how you matriculated through it, right? Ultimately graduated and went on to even what you're doing today. So, with all that being said, let's jump right into it, shall we? So,
Definitely.
I like to start at the beginning. You decided to attend the great Bethune-Cookman University. Take me back to the Zeke of getting ready to graduate high school. You're looking at, maybe you're looking at multiple colleges. What's going through your mind at that time?
Gotta give a little bit of backspace to it before we get there. Rewind all the way to high school. High school, first and foremost, I had this very negative outlook about band. And the sport of my choice was football. So I joined the football team, JV and things of that nature. And it was a lot of us. It was 100+ people all trying to try out for the team, but only select few spots. I actually was one of the individuals who got cut from the JV football team. And the reason why was because the coach said, I don't even know who you are. He was like, you're so quiet. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you can do. I never even had a conversation with you, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to let you go. So when that happened, I ended up joining the band. I guess it was a desire to want to belong and stuff of that nature. And when I first joined the band, I was actually playing an instrument in high school. I was playing the French horn. Now, usually when people join the band, the first thing they want to do is play the drums, play trumpet. So when I played French horn, I completely hated it. I did not want to be a part of that. I didn't want to play French horn. I wanted to be on the drums. I wanted to play trumpet, and because of what little I did know about the band, to be honest, I finagled my way from playing French horn. Right, I cried having a tooth infection, and it led to me being led on cymbals. Man, playing cymbals, learning how to play cymbals in high school is very challenging, but I learned it and I grew a liking to it. And even at that school I was at, my initial school, they was not familiar about HBCUs. The band was a real good band. It wasn't too good. It was very small. But Bethune-Cookman wasn't really on their radar like that. Due to my slip up with having to do night school for geometry for a class I was spelling, I had to do night school at another school. And at that other school, I came across their band members there and had conversations. That is where I gained the insight. I need to be over here. there's greater over here in terms of band. It's a bigger band, it's a bigger drum line. They have more, they do more. If I want to excel, I need to put myself in a conducive environment that will help me excel.
Yeah.
So it led to me transferring high schools. And when I transferred at high school, that is then when I was introduced to Bethune-Cookman. Because they consider themselves baby Bethune-Cookman at the time. They was always playing their cadence, always copying their style and things of that nature. That's how I was introduced to Bethune-Cookman. Even then, there was still so much I didn't know.
Yeah.
So I had to, of course, learn. And this is at my junior year of high school. I had so much to learn, and as I'm learning and developing and progressing, it was getting towards my senior year, and it got towards my senior year around the college time. I started looking for colleges. I wanted to keep going with band, but a part of me didn't, and I was just didn't know where to go. I didn't look at too many schools, but the first school I looked at was not Bethune-Cookman. I think the very first school I looked at was a PWI. I looked at USF, surprisingly, but ultimately, I ended up just changing my focus to Bethune-Cookman. I'm starting to look at the school. I think I went out there one time for summer orientation and just seeing the environment, the culture, and I learned to love the school. And I was already excited about the band. So once I went to the school and seen what the school was like and matched it with the band piece, I was already sold. And even then, I didn't know what it took to get into the band. So 2 months prior to me having to audition for the band, that is when I found out that I had to audition. I had to create a piece. I had to learn this. I had to learn that. And as a percussionist, when you audition for Bethune-Cookman, you don't audition on cymbals, which was the instrument that I played. You audition on snare drum or the bell. All of that I had no experience in. So it was 2 months of extreme crunch time, trying to practice rudiments, practice my solo, learn my scales. All of this in 2 months was very anxiety inducing because it was all for a scholarship, which was the goal. Man, that was full of nothing but late nights, early mornings, school, and practicing. So being able to audition and get a $7,500 scholarship was good for me. But even then, throughout this whole path, I was always hit with moments of doubt and just anxiety because what's $7,500 worth of scholarship to a tuition that's 23? It was very scary, and we often get hit with that a lot when trying to go to college. Scholarships that may cover a small piece or just a portion of it, and you don't know how you're going to be able to come up with the rest of the funds. So even with that scholarship, I was still hesitant about going to Cookman. Applying for financial aid, I was still short. I got financial aid, but I was still short with me tuition. And it got to the point where things just worked out in my favor, and I was able to go and make it to the band, make it to the school.
Yeah.
And then there was band camp.
Let me pause there. Yeah, just so much in that. Let's go back. You grew up in South Florida?
Yes, grew up in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So the first high school I went to was Northeast High School, and then I transferred to a school called Plantation High School.
Got you. Okay, and yeah, I know a few of our drumline mates went to Plantation. Okay, interesting. So, no idea about the band. You're originally in football. Football didn't work out. Transferred to the band. I think it's so funny that you played a French horn. Yeah, French horn is tough. Tough. So I don't blame you for wanting to switch. When I first joined band in middle school, I wanted to play saxophone. That's another one of the cool instruments,
right?
To the trumpet and the drums. But I also switched to percussion after some time. So that's interesting. There's some similarities there. So like you said, you finagled your way to the drums. You played in the marching band. By the grace of God, right? You ended up having to go to night school for geometry, which I didn't do too well in geometry either, so it's okay. Don't feel too bad. But right, by the grace of God, you ended up having to go to night school, and you found out that marching band is so much more than what you were experiencing. So right, it seems like that sort of shifted your entire trajectory as it related to even possibly going beyond high school education.
Definitely.
Yeah, that community piece, and that's something that I definitely want to get into as it relates to your HBCU experience as well, Zeke. So, right, moving forward, like you said, you're cramming for 2 months, preparing for audition, trying to get a scholarship, and I think it shows your wisdom and your level of awareness as it related to just financial aid and trying to get. I need to get this amount of money for tuition because I'm gonna be honest with you. This is just me. I got a scholarship as well, but I had no like tuition that like none of that was in my mind. I was like, oh, I'm going to college. Okay, cool. I'm going to college. Yeah. So I love that you already had that piece of just thinking about the finances
Mhm.
on your radar sooner rather than later, and I'm sure that served you greatly as it related to future endeavors. But we can get into that as well. So now, okay, we're fast forwarded. That was
That's
for the people that weren't listening. You're now caught up, okay?
I
So now
see.
we're at band camp, okay? Talk to us about band camp. So let me ask you this before you get into that. Before you got to band camp, you had already visited Bethune-Cookman, and you said basically based on your experiences from the band and then seeing the campus, you were sold. Talk to us a little bit about, well, share with us what were some of the things that sold you as it related to the campus environment of Bethune-Cookman?
Man, so first and foremost, getting to that environment, of course, not knowing what to expect, but being able to be around so many like-minded individuals, seeing the campus and what they stand for, how they believed in God, and how they know God and not know of God, which is a whole different, you know, conversation. But being able to see the atmosphere, the culture, the things that they stand for, how the organization, how the university was structured, the dorms and things of that nature. It wasn't mind blowing, but it felt so home. Like it just felt so home central versus, having the best of the best of the best. It was just like, dang, this seems more like it will personalize with me. This
Mm,
seems like a place that I can fit in and also grow and excel because of how the environment and being around like-minded individuals were. I went there for over the summer, and they had the summer orientation, did a tour of school. They talked about the wonderful history of the school, talking about Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune and the things of that nature. And it was just like, man, this is really fascinating. This seems so personalized. This seems so personal being at that university versus we just want your money. It felt more like we want to help you grow as an individual.
mm,
We want to help you elevate your mindset as an individual. We want you, like they say, enter to learn and depart to serve. And I felt that, and that's exactly what I was able to receive there.
yeah, that's so interesting considering the fact that you said that you initially were looking at UCF, which we know is a much larger institution than Bethune-Cookman, right? In terms of
Hmm.
its just the size of the school, and then definitely in terms of the student body count. So you feeling like you were a person, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but maybe you feeling like you were more of a person on the campus of Bethune, at Bethune. Let me back up. You feeling like you were more of a person at Bethune compared to maybe possibly feeling like a number at UCF. And then I also think about, you talked about that football experience.
Right.
Maybe going to Bethune was a way for you to stand out a bit more. I don't know. Am I right in that? That's just
Right.
simple.
So the university was USF, University of South Florida,
Oh, okay,
not
USF.
University. But yes, definitely. I felt like I was able to be more of myself versus a statistic, Bethune-Cookman in comparison to how I felt like I would have been at USF. And also I did know that I didn't want to just end band after high school. So, looking at USF's bands, no foul to them or no offense to them, but they have a different band culture in comparison to HBCU band or Bethune-Cookman band, which was all that I was fed and introduced to in high school. So it just motivated me even more to want to gravitate more towards that school.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For the people that aren't familiar, right? There, at least traditionally, there are like two styles: show style and core style. When we think
Hmm.
about the HBCU, historically black schools, right? We're typically show style. When you
Hmm.
think about your PWIs such as USF, they're more traditionally core style. That's a whole nother conversation, but
That's a
just
whole other
people know. So, right, seeing those things at Bethune ultimately made you want to go there. You were able to, with some luck, right, some prayer, and just some effort, some work, put in some work. You were able to get enough money to go to the institution, to Bethune-Cookman, and now you get to band camp.
Get to band camp. Right before even getting to, so this is how nerve-wracking it was. The day of moving was the day that I found out I didn't have enough money to move in. And to be exact, it was $3,000 I was short. So this is when all means were exhausted.
Yeah.
Financial aid gave me what they were willing to offer me, because coming out of high school, my GPA was a 2.9. I didn't take, not even a 2, maybe a 2.5. I didn't take high school serious like how I took college in terms of academics serious. Moving in, it was a struggle to even come up with that $3,000, but by the grace of God, it happened. And then band camp. And luckily for me, sarcastically, whenever it was time for band camp, it was around my birthday. So being at band camp on your birthday, man, it was
yeah, no,
it was an experience.
For sure.
And band camp, they will break you down to build you up. And that entire week of band camp, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., around a whole bunch of people you don't know, but people that you're going to be with for an entire band season and even longer. So learning how to find a community there, but also continue to move forward, man, was tough. Man, I remember the times where I would call my mom, and my mom was so worried because when I'm calling her, she hears my voice. She says, "Oh my gosh, my baby lost his voice," and she's panicking and stuff because she's like, "Man, what are they doing to him over there?" Everything was hurting, head to toes. Everything was sore. And still having to push past that. Sore voice, you're still chanting, you're still marching, sore body. Your body's sore on Monday, you still have to get up early on Tuesday, marching to the cab, being in the hot sun, hydrating, practicing, learning, unlearning, because a high school band compared to a collegiate band, man. But it definitely developed a lot of internal characteristics that I did not know that I needed, and that is helping me till this day. The ability to persevere, to push past the pain, or push past those thoughts that makes you want to give up, or the thoughts of wanting to quit. Determine the willingness to let your ego go, or your pride go, so you can let people teach you and let people help you, and stuff of that nature. Getting out of your own way, and learning how to just apply yourself and be mindful. Oh, that was truly important. Mindfulness. Man, that helped me with the crab camp experience. And as a freshman at crab camp, you're just with your freshman brothers and sisters, those who's all on the same playing field as you. But that second week, when the upperclassmen come, man, that's a whole nother different experience. It's like crab camp 2.0. When the upperclassmen come, it's a whole different experience. But I was definitely able to learn and unlearn, especially starting at crab camp.
You talk about unlearning at high school, not high school being drastically different than college. Man, I remember. So you remember the audition process that we went through, like during crab camp. And so being there with the section leaders, bro, I remember walking in there, and I don't know if you had the same experience, but I walked in there, right? I knew going in I was gonna play cymbals. I'm like, okay, cool. I go pick up the cymbals, and I'm holding them like I held them in high school, and they're like, oh yeah, we play backwards, not really backwards, but
like, right over left, right?
And I'm like, so I end up having to go through the audition, basically like for the first time ever playing right over left, which is backwards compared to when I played in high school. I mean, ultimately we know I picked it up, but did you have that same experience, or did you all play right over left already?
In my high school, we played right over left.
You did,
but what was my challenge for me was adapting to the weight.
Yeah.
Those 20-inch Sabians compared to size 18 Zildjians that I had in high school, way different. And not only
That's the
that, playing with the straps as well and the techniques on how they held the symbols and stuff.
yeah.
Because I used to grip the cymbal straps from the outside with my fist, but they would put their fingers inside and
Mm-hmm.
clench their fist and have it between. And using bandanas, it was just
Yeah.
like, man, this is a whole lot of changing.
Yeah. But I mean, like you said, when you go through something like that, and of course, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's like, okay, we're just, we're playing instruments, so we know people are going
Hmm.
through much bigger changes, but change nonetheless. You talked about Zeke going through band camp, going through these experiences with financial aid, ultimately coming out on the other side and elevating, right, as you are now. You really learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
You kind of named some of the qualities that you learned that you either had in you or you developed over time.
Hmm.
I want to transition. So, right, we have that marching band piece. Talk to us about some of the other elements and other aspects of the campus that you experienced. Maybe being in class. So you talked about not taking schoolwork as seriously in high school. What did that look like for you at Bethune-Cookman, and how did you stay on track and focused?
Man, so the class life was, of course, obviously a new experience to me. But one of the biggest things that I had to grasp very quick was responsibility.
Mm,
Because in that college life, you're responsible for making sure that you go to your classes, you're
yeah,
responsible for completing assignments, you're responsible for studying, you're responsible for all of this type of stuff. You're responsible for you have a whole lot more responsibility for yourself in comparison to being in high school and being under your parents' wings
for
or
sure.
being at wherever you were residing at in comparison to being in a dorm by yourself. So with that class life, you know, getting the books, waiting in line for trying to get those books, or even trying to figure out how you're going to come up with the funds to purchase some of these books if you don't have a book voucher and stuff of
Yeah.
that nature. You get creative with it and you find different means. Luckily, I had an older sister who attended the HBCU. She went to Clark University. So she
Okay.
was telling me all of her tricks that she did to help, with stuff like books. She would go to the library, scan them and make copies and stuff. So she'll have the book in a tangible way. And creative ways that I was able to glean from her and apply with that class life. It was an enriching environment. Depending on the teachers that you have, of course, you get the opportunity just to really just sit there and have that professor student interaction, and learning about things. And, it was weird. In high school, you come to class, the teacher's already there. In college, sometimes you get there before the teacher. So, adapting to all of that was definitely, a new experience for me. But I don't know when. I probably would say my freshman year, that's probably when the mental shift changed for trying to take school more serious. I think because my sister gave me a talk, she was like, "Hey, you're not in high school anymore.
Yeah.
You have to take college more serious because this is your money. You are paying for this education. Don't self-sabotage yourself
Mm,
by not doing the academic work that you need to do so that you may stay inside the program, so that you may stay at the university." And when she said that, it was just like, man, she's right.
yeah.
For me to come and do all of this to make the money to attend the university just for me to go and sabotage myself and fail academically, I'm really putting myself at a disadvantage against myself.
Mm,
So how can I succeed if I'm displaying behaviors that advocates against myself in a harmful manner, not a constructive or helpful manner? So when she said that, it just clicked in my head, okay, I need to start taking school seriously. I need to start being more intentional with my degree and the stuff that I'm trying to get accomplished. And the first 2 years where you're taking basic courses, but the later 2 years is when you start taking courses geared towards your degree. Even then, I hit the ground trying to be intentional with my academics. And even then, it was still a struggle for me. There were times I missed discussion posts. There were times where I procrastinated and I wanted to play video games, but I had a post at 11:59.
real.
There were there were times where I forgot to study for a test, or I thought I did study enough for a test, and I realized the hard way I didn't study enough for a test when it was time to take the test. And that trial and error, it didn't bring a perspective of disgrace or doubt in me. it was more of a, okay, I need to develop action steps moving forward so I don't experience this over again. So I think that's what happens, and that's the mindset to have when dealing with setbacks, even in college or university. Whenever you get hit with a setback, okay, this happened. Process it, understand it, and realize or try to identify what to do moving forward to prevent being put in that position again. And that came through the trial and error piece for me.
Good stuff. So you answered a question that I was going to ask. So we know, when we think about HBCUs or just college in general, there's sometimes a legacy piece where, in your case, a sibling or a parent or another family member has gone to, either that same school or just college in general. In your case, your sister attended an HBCU, Clark Atlanta University. I want to talk a little bit about that. So you remember some of the experiences that she went through before you attended Bethune-Cookman, and did you have a perception of HBCUs in general, like as she was attending?
Man, okay. Well, just as a side note,
Yeah.
me going to Cookman, I found out that my auntie went to Cookman after I started going there. But she went there way before me. And not only that, she was a flag girl. She only did one semester, but I found that out later on at Cookman.
Yeah.
So my sister, who went to Clark Atlanta, I actually was with her when it was time to drop her off.
Okay.
We packed the car up and we took that drive down there from Florida to Georgia to drop her off. And seeing how big that campus was, honestly, the only thing I could think about was I don't have my sister here with me no more. And me being the baby of the family, and my sister who went to college, she was the second oldest. I'm like, I'm by myself now.
Yeah.
But still checked in with her and stuff of that nature. And she was telling me the type of things that she endured there. The late nights she had studying, the exams, the stuff that she had to do. It got to a point where she had to pick up a job for herself. So she's now trying to work, but also excel in school.
Yeah.
I think it got to a point where she was working two jobs, and still trying to excel at school. And I'm just like, man. So I'm hearing these stories, and it just developed the perception that like this is gonna be tough. But not only did I have that perception develop, but my sister also notated the importance of independence. That's where also I would say that responsibility chip came back into me.
Yeah.
Because of the things that she was bringing to my attention on what I have to be responsible for. When you transition to college, you're solely responsible for yourself as an individual. You have to make sure that your basic and essential needs are met. You have to make sure that you're still holding yourself accountable and keeping the standard up so that you can get whatever needs to get done and accomplished, but also you're still learning yourself. You're still developing yourself internally while still trying to manage and delegate and organize these things externally. So it really showed the importance of a lot of characteristics and features needed: time management, boundaries, being able to relax and having that balance of working and relaxing, because people like to either overwork and under relax, or people like to balance. And all of those key components I was able to glean from my sister. But even with all of that stuff, me thinking that I would be prepared, it's a whole different experience when you're in the experience.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I'm learning all of this. I'm ready. I'm gonna be able to handle it. Once it was my turn to step up, it was like, whoa, But even then, I still developed the perception of one, sole responsibility and growing more into adulthood as an individual.
Yeah.
And number two, the independency. Me being an independent person and me having to make sure that although I had this freedom, I had to steward over this freedom well. I had to steward over myself well, because I don't have the same restrictions that I had back when I was in high school. I don't have to be home at a curfew. I don't have to wait on my mother to cook me a meal or anything of that nature. I'm responsible for all of that now. And with that independency, I need to make sure I steward it well, because if not, it will lead to my own demise.
Yeah. No, that's good, Zeke. Hey, if you're out there listening, if you're out there watching, and you are in high school thinking about college, or if you're a parent or caretaker of someone who's getting ready to go to college, this is the real. This is real stuff. Yeah, it's real stuff. And I adopted this this mindset right when I was at daily basic care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Food, water,
Man.
shower, right? Hygiene.
Mm.
Experiences.
Me and we have a real great relationship, and I'm always following in her footsteps in some manner. But with Clark Atlanta, who I think she told me her tuition was 40,000. Um, but that wasn't even what turned me away. What turned me away was looking at their band, and since I was already wired to
I
Bethune-Cookman
feel
mode, I was
you.
like, this
Yeah,
isn't Cookman.
yeah,
And even then, my sister did connect me with somebody from the band. And I had a conversation with a cymbal player and things of that nature. My sister even one time recorded a cymbal player there and stuff. And I truly liked their style and how they were. But they were a smaller band compared to the great Bethune-Cookman University. So me, it was just like,
nah.
I'm gonna go this way.
Yeah, if I want the Ferrari, I'm gonna go get the Ferrari.
Yeah, and they're offering me 7,500. Let me just gravitate this way.
Yeah.
It's funny because Northeast High School was the school that my sister went to. So when I came in as a freshman, she was a senior. So I had that experience of being under the same school with my sister, even though it was short lived. But I just did it. That's just not something I wanted to make happen going to college. I just wanted to go in my own direction. I wanted to make my own choice and, follow my own path. And that's how this landed me at Bethune.
Yeah, for sure. And hey, shout out to the babies. If you're the baby of your family, I'm the baby of my family. That's what I say.
Definitely.
Shout
Shout
out
out
to
to
the
the
babies.
babies.
We are the smartest. We are the best looking. We are the best cooks.
The
All right.
wisest.
Business, look, whatever best you have there, it's us. And then right, my brother went to Bethune-Cookman first. I
Hmm.
think y'all were in the same class of 2014. I ended up following him. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, let's talk about community because we know that yes, there's an internal battle that we have within these experiences. But one of the things that make HBCUs special, and you kind of alluded to it, Zeke, is that sense of community, that sense of unity that you have with your in this case, your bandmates, your classmates, and so on. What were some impactful experiences that you had as it related to community at Bethune-Cookman?
Okay, so first and foremost, I want to begin by saying you are only as strong as your environment would allow you to be. So let's say you're trying to study for a test. If you're in the environment, let's say at a party, it's going to be difficult for you to study for a test at a party whenever jumping around and things of that nature. So when I say environment, I'm talking about people, places, and products in your surrounding circumstances. So when it comes to community, I have some very impactful small communities. First and foremost, with the band, I was able to form a lot of brotherhoods in the band, but that brotherhood was carried outside the band. Being able to collaborate with individuals who played the same instrument as me, who came in as a freshman as me, who came in at the same time, although we had different degrees and things of that nature, we all were still playing the same instrument. So that laid a foundation to build up off of. So it went from, of course, spending band time with each other because we have no choice but to see each other since we're all at band. But it also led to hanging at each other's dorms and playing video games or going out to events or whatever the case may be. So I definitely had a very small community, but I still was good with a lot of people. I'm a person, I'm a really people person. So like a lot of people was able to just, we was always just able to have a good conversation. There would always be a positive vibe when interacting with another. And I also had an academic community, individuals who I can talk to. We could talk about this teacher. We could talk about this assignment. We could try to study together, study partners, figure things out, even join some academic organizations with those individuals. Those two communities, the band brotherhood community that traveled outside and also the academic community, carry me all the way. carried me all the way through. So, I know, hey, I missed this assignment. Can you explain it to me because I was sick? Okay, I got you. This, that, and the third. Oh, hey, we need to study. Are you available so we can go to the library and study? Okay, cool. Let's do that. Hey, man, you want to go play some video games? Yeah, come on. So I had that ability where I had two different communities and they both were helping me and I was helping them at the same time. Not
Yeah.
only task oriented, but on the individual level as well. And you really have to be mindful who you have in your community, especially in college. If you're there for greater, but you're around people who are doing less than, it's going to be problematic for you. It's going to be problematic. So you have to be truly mindful of who you choose to be part of, or who you decide to, what community you decide to join when there, because there's going to be a whole lot of options, a whole lot of different communities you can join. You can join academic organizations, you can join fraternities and sororities, you can join not random things, but you can join different groups of friends and stuff of that nature that you might have met from class or you might have seen at an event or whatever the case may be. And it's just like having a community is great, but you have to be mindful of who you actually have in your community versus somebody who wants to help harm you. You might want to be towards somebody who want to help you, someone who's going to be constructive with you and not destructive.
Yeah.
Because if you put yourself around those people, it's going to be very hard and difficult and problematic for you in so many ways. And I'm really just thankful for the community that I did have over there at Bethune-Cookman. Those individuals able to help me, even in times of need, in times where I couldn't make it to the calf because of whatever reason, they was able to, get some food for me. Or in times where I was sick and I didn't have a lot of money or medicine, they was able to give me some and things of that nature. So being around the right community is truly important when being in college, holistically.
That's huge. Village mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that. And I agree, right? During my time at Bethune, I developed some very close friendships as well, and they've transcended the campus of Bethune, and my assumption is yours have as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just never know. You just never know where you're going to end up in life. You don't know what challenges you're going to face, but when you can lean on your community, when you can lean on your support, and know everything's going to be okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's a powerful feeling. So thank you for sharing about that.
Definitely. It's easier to get up sometimes when you have somebody to help you up. Say when life, the way that life, like the life on life terms, I say it all the time. When life gets heavy on you and you're carrying so much weight, it can be very fruitful to have somebody just help lift up that weight for you a little bit. Having that right person like, hey, I got you, let me hold some of this for you. And you do the same thing for that person as well.
Yeah. And just to tie some history into it, thinking about the legacy of historically Black colleges and universities, right? Oh, yes, we understand that they were born out of need, right? And that once the slaves were freed through the Emancipation Proclamation, they needed somewhere to learn more intentionally and at a higher level. Many HBCUs were started because of land grants or because of the acts of others, right? So not necessarily by someone who was Black. I mean, many HBCUs were built by white folk, just to share that and the kindness of them, right? And so what I glean from that, Zeke and listeners, is that you never know who's going to be on your side. Stay open and don't be afraid to ask for support. Don't be afraid to ask for help, because I believe that people are kind more than anything. And I think generally speaking, we tend to lead with kindness. Yeah, that's good. Okay, good stuff. So let's move forward, right? You stay at Bethune for 4 years. You successfully graduate. Talk to us about the next chapter and take us into the future to where you currently are now.
Man, okay, so those 4 years, I definitely got the rhythm and roll and was able to develop a strong routine. Once it was time to transition out, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. I knew I was getting ready to graduate, and I didn't know where I didn't know what was next. I really didn't. But sadly, but helpfully, My mom didn't tell me this, but she told my sisters this, that she didn't want me to come back home. And of course, it did hurt because that was something I was considering going back home. But there was no growth for me at home, and my mom knew that. So, which is why she didn't want me to go back. So when hearing that, I took that as an opportunity to try to get planted in the city that I went to school in. So I went to look for a job. Matter of fact, before I graduated, I already had a job my senior year because things lightened up. I didn't have as much classes left to take and things of that nature. So I had more flexibility to work a job, especially in the off season. Oh my gosh. In the concert band season, man, that time free up. You just got to finesse for university band and not be in concert band A or something.
Funny, right? Game.
Gave the opportunities to work. So I was a store manager. Nope, I was an assistant manager at Lids. When graduating, this was by pure faith. When graduating, I did not know how I was going to make ends meet with the money that I was making as an assistant manager. I wasn't making that much. It was more tithing than pay. But a step of faith, which there was so many faith steps, even from freshman year to senior year, with my scholarship getting doubled and things of that nature. So many faith steps. So when graduating, I took a step of faith with, I decided I'm going to just try to stay here. I'm going to hope that I can get promoted to store manager so that I can get the money that I need so I can get this, that, and the third. My senior year was probably the most hardworking year that I had because when I found out my mom didn't want me to come back, I was like, I got to figure something out. So it started off with me staying at somebody's house on their couch. He was so graceful enough to allow me to stay there. And while I was working at Lids, so I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, take an hour walk to Volusia Mall to work 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., then close, walk to the bank late at night to deposit the money, then take that hour walk back to his house to sleep on.
Bro, 12
and I did that
hours? Not to cut you off, you worked 12 hours?
Yeah. Yeah, I was working, and this is as an assistant manager, because things got problematic at the store and stuff, so there was a whole lot less staff. So I just took that opportunity to just step up and say, you know what, let me just grind it out, let's do it and make it happen. So I did that for probably like 2 months. 2 months, and it took a lot of discipline in me. At that time, I didn't know how to cook. I was fighting, not trying to burn all my money eating out and stuff of that nature. But I definitely was able to save up money, and I got my car. Man, first and foremost, getting a car without knowing what you need to do to get a car, that's a whole experience and a whole other conversation in itself. But I was able to get a car, and it's so funny because I asked God, I said, God, I don't need nothing major. I just need a 2-door, all-black Honda Coupe. Jokingly, that really happened. And it's like, thank you, God. So that happened. Now I was able to be mobile. This is still before I graduated. I'm able to be mobile. I'm driving to and from work now. Now I'm able to transport and do things. So now I'm able to keep moving forward with trying to work towards getting an apartment. So that situation happened where I was still saving up money and I had money saved up. Then luckily, they created another Lids store in Tanger Outlets. So they brought the store manager who was there to that new store, which left the position for that store to open up. So I tried to step into it. I got the position and it worked out in my favor. And I was so grateful. I was so grateful. I was so grateful. So I became a store manager at Lids before I even graduated. So now, as I'm, with an increased pay, working my hours as a store manager and getting the pay that I get, I was able to save up money and get my apartment. And this happened relatively quick. This happened in a matter of 2 months. I got my first car, my first apartment. Luckily, by the grace of God. It was just so revolutionary because I was so scared. I was so doubtful. I didn't know what to do. Nobody had the means to help me. Nobody had the means to give me the money. I didn't know what I was taking on in terms of responsibility, like the registration and the insurance that's going to be super, super high because this is my first time getting a car. So I'm learning as I go. But although I was doubtful and scared, I still kept moving forward. And as I was moving forward, I learned more. I understood more. I planned more. I got more organized. I started developing action steps moving forward. I stopped trying to procrastinate as much as I did and started work more. And it worked out in my favor because I applied myself. And that's where we struggle with sometimes. Sometimes we know, but if we don't apply what we know, do we really know it? So, being able to do that, I graduated as a store manager. I had my apartment, and although I had my apartment, I was still sleeping at my dorm because I didn't have no furniture and things of that nature. And come graduation time, when family came up to see me, they bought all of my furniture for me. And I had cousins, and they came and bought me TV stands, they bought me a bed, they bought me this, and it was just like, man, I was so humbly grateful for that, because all I could do was think about those hour walks I was taking. All I could think about was those times where I just kept working and working and working. There was no time for play, no time whatsoever. I was working, walking those hours to the mall. I wanted to give up. I was sweaty. I kept looking over my shoulder because Nova Road don't got no street lights. I'm walking to the bank, but looking over my shoulder, holding so much money in my pocket, like from the store, because of how much money we made that day.
Yeah.
Scared for myself, scared for my life, scared for my safety. And it worked out. You know, I wasn't consumed by the fear. I wasn't consumed by the anxiety. I wasn't consumed with all of the things that was trying to consume me. I decided to positively reinforce and change my way of thinking, and it worked out in my favor. Not knowing how, it's like I was walking down a dark tunnel. I didn't see the light at the end, but although I was in the dark, I kept moving forward until I eventually seen the light. And it worked out for me. So I was working at Liz, but when you get a degree, you want to use the degree, right? You don't want to just like to go to race. So then I tried to figure out, after some time being at Lids, a year, 3 years, I wanted to find greater. I wanted to start working within the psychology degree that I bust my butt for, that I graduated with a 3.0 GPA. I think it was a 3.2 or something like that, a good GPA. Then it led me to working for the Department of Children and Families, DCF, as a caseworker, a social worker. Man, I did not enjoy that. I didn't enjoy it at
Many
all.
people don't.
So during that time, one of my biggest fears were dogs at the time. And I would hate going to people's houses I don't know. So those are the two biggest things I kept facing working as a social worker. Going to people's houses I don't know, and their giant dogs trying to maul my face off. Or at least I would perceive that in my head, that that's what they were going to do. But working at DCF, I faced so much adversity. Man, now that I think about it, I had to take a test to, pass the test in order to be hired on board. And I failed the very first time I took that test. I had test anxiety, and my car battery died the morning of the test. So I was like, man, I'm about to fail or not. I'm about to get fired because my car battery, I was having car troubles. So even though I made it, they still graced me, allowed me to come take the test, even though I was a little late. I still was nerve-wracking. I failed. When failing, I was told that you're able to retake the test again. But when I failed, I was told, oh no, you're fired. Whoa, I'm talking about anxiety straight through the roof. I just got this apartment, I just got this car, and now I got this job that I'm working towards, and now they're telling me I'm fired before I actually get hired? Man, that was so nerve-wracking. So now I'm like, what am I going to do now? I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what I was going to do. So after that, they reached back out to me and said, hey, you're actually allowed to retake the test. Somebody just misused their authority and power. You're actually able to retake the test. And I retook the test, I passed it, and then I became a social worker. That's when I really started consistently going to people's houses and doing stuff like that. Given how uncomfortable I was with the job and how I felt like it wasn't purposeful for me, I wanted to find something greater. So that led to me being at a group home in Deltona Beach, Florida, called Choices. So I'm working with kids now. I'm working with kids who have mental diagnoses and come from traumatic backgrounds. And the way that the organization was set up, I had to sleep there. It was a house. I had to sleep at the house, wake up 3 times in the middle of the night to make sure that the kids are there, they didn't jump out the window or run away, that they're asleep, they're sound asleep. There was even one of the kids I had to wake up periodically, make him use the bathroom so he don't wet the bed. So now I'm applying the responsibility I learned through college and bringing it into my work life, and also trying to help the younger generation be more responsible. I was working with the oldest kids were probably like, I worked from age range 8 to 17, depending on what facility I was at, what house I was at that time, because it fluctuated. And there was so fulfilling for me. I was able to pour into these kids and help them develop a healthier mindset, help them develop coping skills, help them try to work on managing their anger and managing their emotion. I was able to personally bond with a lot of the kids there. I was very selfless there at times. I would buy them pizza and stuff of that nature. You know, we would always compromise and communicate with one another. One of my biggest compromises, you guys want pizza? Okay, let's make sure the whole house is clean. Let's make sure rooms are clean, laundry's folded. Let's make sure dishes, or I'll take care of the dishes. Don't worry about the dishes. And, you know, I'll take my responsibility in cleaning up as well. But having that collaborative approach with the children, it really compromised collaboration through communication was very powerful with the kids there. And it was a very rewarding experience. And then COVID hit. COVID hit, and that's when I decided to go for my master's degree. I went for my master's degree at Adler University online for industrial organizational psychology. Man, COVID hit, but since the need for my job was in demand regardless of COVID, because where these children are going to be, I still gracefully, by the grace of God, was able to keep my job throughout COVID. But it was hard to survive because everything in the stores is gone. No toilet paper, no water. I have the money to buy stuff, but there's no stuff for me to buy. The math was not mathematically mathing. But COVID hit, working on my master's degree, and for some odd reason, I guess I hit my quota or wanted more purpose. I wanted to do more in the world. I wanted to do more. I don't know why. I just wanted to have a more purposeful job, or I wanted to have something that was more suitable to my life. And I had this strong ringing in me to leave Daytona Beach, Florida. The cost of living was getting higher. There wasn't that much job opportunities there, and inflation was getting bad. You know, it got bad for the economy down there in Florida in general. There was a point in time where my mom was paying $1,800 for a studio. And it was the cost of living and just the cost to survive in Florida was really bad. So that created a heart and a mindset to want to leave Florida. At this time, my sister moved to Georgia. She got settled in Georgia after graduating. I kind of did the same thing in Daytona, but Daytona just wasn't it for me no more. So I wanted to figure out where to go. I'm looking at my options. Georgia, North Carolina, Texas. I'm looking at different areas to go, and I ended up going to Texas. Now, I have to pause and give a little backstory onto why I chose Texas. Back in 2017, I graduated in 2018. I traveled up to Texas with an academic organization called the Association of Black Psychologists to present research. We present research on how social anxiety and intimacy interact to predict infidelity. So to make it short, our study found that those who have social anxiety are more likely to cheat. Versus if they didn't have social anxiety, you would think that people who didn't have social anxiety would be the ones who are more likely to cheat. But it was actually vice versa. So we came up to Texas to present research at the Galleria Mall or in that area. And jokingly, once again, I said, God, I'm going to move out here to Texas. So that was 2017. Now, fast forward to 2020, it's time for me to move. I want to leave. I'm looking at my options, and I chose Texas. All I had was income tax money, which was about $3,000. I packed my car up, moved. I didn't have a job guaranteed or anything of that nature. I had a place to stay because of the money that I have saved. I was able to get an apartment, but that was another faith walk. I didn't have no job guaranteed. I didn't know how I was going to continue to provide income. So in the middle of a pandemic, I decided to pack my car up, drive to Texas while working on my master's degree.
Wow. How far was the drive?
18 hours. 18 hours. And made it to that apartment. Once we crossed Texas border, once I crossed Texas border, they was like, you're going to have to quarantine or we're going to give you $1,000 fine. I said, bet, let me just go to Walmart, grab some food, and I'm gonna stay inside. I have my laptop, my video games. Do I have Wi-Fi? I need to know the bare minimum to survive. But it took me probably about a month. So this is around the time the stimulus checks came out. So the stimulus checks came, and they definitely helped push me towards having that financial stability or being able to stay financially afloat during those hard times.
Right.
So while that happening, I probably was out of a job for probably like a month and a half before I was able to find a job in Hempstead, which was an hour away from where I was living. The irony of this, I would drive an hour away to go work 8 to 8, a 12-hour shift, just to drive back. And I was doing this at another youth branch where working with young kids and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
And it's thinking about it, the walk an hour to do a 9 to 9 shift at Lids to walk an hour back, it prepared me for this hour drive. It's crazy how things come full circle. So it's like the things that I was doing back then at Lids and back then when I was in Daytona, I had no idea that it was preparing me and developing me for the things that I would be doing then. I had no clue. But since I was able to learn it and unlearn what I had to in that current season, it prepared me for my next season that I didn't even know that I was stepping into. So I worked at Safe Haven Youth Ranch, which was the name of the place, was working with straight boys, pointing to the males, was there with a great staff. Sometimes I would get off of work at 2:00 in the morning because of how things were going. Things were chaotic. We had youth who would try to fight. We have youth who would try to run away. And this is out in the middle of nowhere. The ranch is a giant ranch with so much field space. They got acres of land, but still the best of the best technologies and stuff of that nature, just for the youth to be incubated and not be into the city and things of that nature. So where they have more time to focus on them. The school came to them. You know it's real when the school comes to you to teach you. So that's how it was structured. And I was working there for a few years. And it was a great experience. But that hour drive down 290, passing Pearview University, passing the school, it got weary because I would have to wake up at 2:00 in the morning or 4:00 in the morning, similar to how I used to do working at Lids. So it was something for me to do, but it just got to I have to try to find something that's more suitable for me. And it led me to my current job that I am at now and been here for 3 years now. Working at a homeless shelter, a psychiatric emergency homeless shelter. So now I'm helping individuals transition from a psych hospital and help them get stabilized by linking them to community resources such as housing, food stamps, clothing, and helping them with psychiatric and medical care. So this is my first time working with adults. Not only am I doing those things, linking them to community resources, I'm also doing daily groups with them. So now I have groups for 50 minutes or 90 minutes every day, talking to them about various things from a psychoeducational perspective: stress, trauma, coping skills, anger, mindfulness, burnout, things of that nature. First time ever working with adults, so I didn't know what to expect, but these adults that I was working with are newly diagnosed. So for those who may not know, individuals who are newly diagnosed, they have both a substance use disorder and also a mental diagnosis. So, and that makes things complicated for the individual because you're battling addiction and mental health at the same time. So it's definitely an amazing experience, but I had the opportunity to really pour into these individuals, addressing matters of the mind and of the heart, being able to create a new perception in them, to empower and encourage them to take a healthier route, to be able to let them know that, hey, look, you have this trauma, you have this pain, but you can let it go. I tell them this all the time. It's funny how we don't love pain, but we hold on to pain as if we love it. Or I always tell them, hey, one day at a time, let's just focus on what we got to do today and do it all over again, day by day, step by step. And I'm constantly just standing in front of them, pouring to them from experience, like my ability to talk to them about stress comes from my experience and how the battles I had with stress. the times where I won and the times where I failed. Same thing for coping skills and burnout and things of that nature. So the things that I would learn in my personal life that developed and gave me wisdom, I would then go give it to somebody else because it's like, hey, this is what we need to be mindful of. Because we don't got nobody in life teaching us how to life. It's something that you learn as you go. So I think what we should do is try to be a pillar for one another and be kind to one another to help them and help others, which is what we are taught to do. But it's an amazing experience to be able to just pour into people, addressing matters of the mind and of the heart, and help people learn, help people unlearn, and help people walk down a healthier path.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Zeke. I want to get into, as we kind of land the plane here, I want you to share about your platform, right, that you're going on. Definitely want to do that. I'll say this. We've been talking a lot about paths, walks, faith. And of course, we know, and just to, right, tying it back into the HBCU elements of it, right, Bethune-Cookman is a university that's deeply rooted in faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know so much so that, there's a specific area on campus isn't it called the Walk of Faith, which is next to or right outside of where Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune once lived, right?
Right.
On the campus. So, right, if that's something that, I won't say if that's something that interests you, I'll just say you should, if you ever get a chance to visit Bethune-Cookman, just keep that piece in mind to go visit and take that walk of faith because, yeah, everyone has a testimony.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really know how strong you are. The quote says, our greatest fear is not that we're weak, but that we're powerful beyond measure, something like that. And just hearing your story, right? This is all stuff that I didn't know, people. So I'm learning right along with you, man. Yeah, man. I think more black men in particular, but more black people in general. Like, I'm very proud of you. I'm very thankful that you continue to persevere, that you had that level of community, and that you are now using your experiences to pour into first the next generation, now current and older generations, right? Just people in general. When we think about HBCUs, right? And I want to go back real quick. It's so interesting that you started off your journey being cut from JV football because the coach didn't know who you were. You weren't talking, you were in the shadows, so to speak. Now to see, through your HBCU adventure and even to now, you've been anything but that, right?
Right.
Out in the forefront, taking those chances, having the faith, doing the things necessary. And so you've been blessed time and time and time again by doing the work. I just think that's interesting. I'm not sure if you've sort of connected that or if you even think about that.
Man, I think about it all the time because it's very revolutionary on how things just worked out for me. It's like in those times when you don't see how, in those times you don't know how, that doesn't mean it's not going to work out in your favor.
Yeah, that's good. So when we think about HBCUs, my mission is to preserve and elevate historically Black colleges and universities. You've had your own unique HBCU adventure at Bethune-Cookman University. When you think about how we might be able to preserve and elevate HBCUs, what comes to mind for you?
Man, so I feel like we in any organization, but specifically HBCUs, we won't be able to succeed unless we have successful leaders. So, in my opinion, it starts from leaders who don't just want statistics, leaders who don't just want money, leaders who have intentionality for the care of the individuals who will be under that organization. So yes, addressing the leaders, making sure we have the right people in position of powers who genuinely care for the individual and holistic development of these individuals who will be there at the university. I do feel like in society in general, things is always a number game or a money game. And I understand the importance of finances because we need money to survive and make things happen. But at the expense of somebody else's mind and heart, I don't think so. So I think that can definitely help with revolutionaries in the HBCU community. I also think we should shine a light more on empowerment and encouragement, empowering the people there. We have students. The students are the future. These students have bright minds. Why are we not empowering them or encouraging them to shine bright like the light that they are? You know, why are we not putting these individuals in a position to where their voice can actually be vocalized in a manner that's actually being heard and not just to look good? We have people like SGA presidents and things of that nature, and it gets into the politics of HBCUs and stuff of that nature. I'm not discrediting them at all under no circumstances, but we need students who are actually going through the experience to
Mhm.
advocate for people who are all going through the experience and not only just leaders. So a collaboration point perspective would be great from a leader to student. You have somebody at the top, but you have somebody at the bottom, and let them work together to really help and push the overall goal and mission of whatever HBCU it is. Because the goal should really be to develop one internally and externally so that they can depart from the community or depart from the organization and embark on a path of life and make their impact.
Mhm.
But how are they going to be impactful in the world if they're not even being impacted at the school? So I
Man,
definitely think those two things can help revolutionize and help HBCU stay relevant. Yeah.
that's good. Thanks for that, brother. Yeah, that's good. Community, your land's strong as your weakest link. Let's build everyone up, right? So we can all succeed together. That's
Definitely.
good stuff. I love that. Before we close it out here, you've got a platform. I know, but you've sort of been like dry, like you've been going in a little bit.
Yeah.
You're talking a lot about the mind and the heart, and right these other principles. Talk to us about your platform, what it's about, why you started it, where we can find you.
Man, so first and foremost, my platform is titled Progressive Evolution, and it's addressing matters of the mind and of the heart. I went this way because I truly believe everything is either a matter of the mind, a matter of the heart, or a matter of both. Just to give a practical example, everybody wants money, which is something external, but we need to be able to have discipline to manage our finances. One, be able to resist temptation and urges so we don't burn a hole in our finances. And those are the type of things that comes from within. Because your heart desires that triple deluxe bacon burger and your mind thinks about it. So then you cultivate an action to spend that money that you're trying to save. Just as a small example. So with this safe space, we're addressing matters of the mind and of the heart to empower and encourage individuals to nudge their perspective. Because I really feel like we have a lot of gunk around our heart, a lot of gunk around our mind in a manner that God can't reach us the way that he may want to. So I'm trying to really just empower and encourage everybody with my safe space. I'm full of acronyms. I'm full of a lot of stuff that has never been said before.
This is true.
Um, that I do believe has a lot of great wisdom that could really put you in a better position in life. You can find me on Instagram. I really wish I knew my Instagram name, but I really don't. You can find me on YouTube. Progressive Evolution the 23. We're definitely on Instagram,
Yeah,
YouTube,
thanks too.
Facebook, TikTok, and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I be cooking over there. I'll be cooking. It's a brand new platform. To be honest, I've been in my head and in my way for a very long time. So I'm now introducing the platform to the world. But this content I've been having, I've been sitting on it for years. The acronyms that I've been having, I've been sitting on it for years. I've been developing this at my job. And it's revolutionary for the people that I'm serving at my job. So in my mind, if this is revolutionary for the people here, I really feel like it can be a great impact for the people out there. And my goal really is just to empower and encourage everybody to really do the internal care. I really need to stop being a generation
Yeah.
who have a clean cup on the outside but dirty on the inside. What good is a car that looks clean on the outside, but you can't sit in it because how much junk is in there, how much trash is on the floor. And that's how we are in a society. That's how we're walking around. We look good on the outside, but on the inside, we're dirty. And I create this safe space to help empower and encourage individuals to clean themselves up on the inside too.
Hey, folks, that was just a little appetizer for you. For
Yeah.
y'all. Yeah. Hey, look. I mean, I'll share this. Hey, I've seen the content, Zeke. If you've enjoyed, I'll say this: if you've enjoyed listening to Zeke here today, I mean, it's the same power, it's the same purposeful language, it's the same raw, transparent emotion.
Man,
It's the same level of realness at Progressive Evolution. I promise you, the content is good. The content is great. It really is fresh, a fresh perspective on topics you may have heard about before, right? I love the acronyms, and he's entertaining. I'm really excited, Zeke, for just the expansion of not only Progressive Evolution, but just how you'll continue to expand, um, impacting yourself and impacting others. You've already impacted me today, and I hope that someone out there who is listening to this podcast has been impacted. I would go as far as to say I know there's someone out there who's been impacted by your work today. So I greatly appreciate you coming onto the platform, to the ICU HBCU podcast to share a little bit of your HBCU adventure. Thanks.
man, I truly appreciate you having me here because ICU HBCU is going to be revolutionary, not only for the youth and those coming up to try to attend HBCUs, but for those who went through it as well. And I really look forward to seeing the amazing things that you are going to do with this platform. I'm here, I'm committed, and I'm all with it. So let's get it. Bars.
Bars. Say less. Hey, that's it, man. So much to y'all for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Interested in a copy of ICU HBCU? I keep forgetting to plug the book. Look, the book is available on Amazon, Ingram Spark. You can also find it on my website, ybi.net. That information will be in the show notes below. Is any last words before we close it out?
Man, just breathe, slow your mind down, slow your heart down, and take things day by day, step by step, one day at a time, people.
Bro, this man is always cooking. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Zeke, hey, enjoy life. We'll see you in the next one.
Yes, sir. Later.